And now, please join me in welcoming LMU theater professor extraordinaire Daphne Secret and the star of Tick, Tick, Boom, Andrew Garfield.
How's it going? Good. Oh, there's the bottom of your... I haven't seen your nose and mouth yet. Isn't that so strange? We have we start painting the picture before we get to see each other's faces now, and we kind of and we get surprised by what we see afterwards. I had a completely different idea of your face. Sorry, I'm just being silly and distracting from... Hey, you guys watched the movie? Happy you're all here. Thank you for being here as well.
Thank you. I'm just so excited and just so happy to be here with you and just to be able to be in conversation about this work and its legacy and its importance. It's just really something very, very special. And your performance is just also very special. So I want to start this conversation with the importance of honoring Jonathon Larson. And here you have someone who was brilliant and who really was able to change the course of musical theater historically in a way that no one had until he was developing the work he was developing. And so I would love to know, why, why is it so important to keep his work alive? And why is it so important to learn who he is and learn his story?
Yeah, I mean, I think multiple reasons. I think symbolically for me, what Jonathon represents is the struggle of the artist and the struggle of what it is to be a person with a calling, with a vocation, with a dream. And the fact, one of the things I find so moving about John is that he woke up every morning to rejection and to failure and everyone telling him to give up. And then he woke up the next morning and started writing the next one anyway, without receiving any encouragement, particularly from his culture, from the world, from his industry. In the same way that it makes me think of Vincent van Gogh and the fact that everyone called him insane and thought that his technique of painting was not going anywhere, but he couldn't help but wake up the next morning and put his brush on the canvas anyway. And it left the world so much richer. Jonathon left us ripples that we're still experiencing and feeling now. And I find it deeply moving because he never knew the harvest of his gifts. He never received the accolades. He never received a pat on the back from the world. He had his community, which was everything to him. And I think another thing that I find so moving about this particular film and Jonathon as an artist is that this film feels like a coming of age for John, and a coming of age for all artists, that going from a kind of maybe a more self-centered, selfish drive to realizing that, in that song "Why," that number "Why" that Jonathon sings in Central Park under the stars, I think he realizes in that moment that he's face to face with, is it enough just to make songs, and is it enough just to write at a piano, and is it enough to sing? Am I cut out for this? And also, is it enough when my friends are getting sick and dying? And actually, we all have gifts. We all have very specific, unique gifts to bring. And Jonathon's gift was his gift of artistry and music. And that was his way. In that song, I think he's realizing that he has to continue doing what he needs to, what he feels called to do, not just for himself, but for his brother Michael, for his friend Michael, and for his whole community. So actually it became a kind of revolutionary call to arms. And suddenly he starts playing and singing, to reach the unconscious mind of Ronald Reagan, to try to kind of change legislation in the halls of Congress rather than just to get his stuff on Broadway. So actually he was fighting. He started to sing and fight for something far greater than himself. And I think that is the job of the artist, to make it deeply personal and self-revelatory, but also of service to the wider community. And John revolutionized the musical genre. He was the first person to combine rock music with musical theater, and everyone thought that that's not going to go anywhere. And then look at where we are, you know. And there's a direct link between Jonathon and Lin-Manuel Miranda, who obviously created the next revolution in musical theater by combining the genre of hip hop with musical theater in such an effective and kind of universal way. And both Rent and Hamilton are about the revolution, are about how do we wake up a generation of people? How do we start remembering that we're all sacred and that life is sacred, and that, he was advocating for, all oppressed people, all people who are on the fringes of society, because he felt like he was as well, even though he was a white, heterosexual, cis man. There's a really interesting part of the Rent story, but after he had wrote it, he was feeling quite self-conscious about it, because he thought, well, am I the person to tell this story, because it's not my lived experience. I don't have HIV. I identify as straight. And he finished this kind of opus. He finished this 3-hour. He wrote it all, and had all the music and had the story all written. And he invited 3 of his closest friends who happened to be gay, and two of them, I think, were HIV positive. And he said, "Can you come over to my apartment? I just want to play this thing I'm working on for you, and I need to check in with you guys that it's okay that I've done this, and that it's my story to tell as much as it is yours." And he played it for them in his sweatpants for 3 hours, like one man show of Rent. And his 3 friends were just, of course, sobbing. And they said, "No, you are the voice of our generation. You are the voice of our community. It doesn't matter what skin color you have. It doesn't matter who you have sex with. That you are, your empathic imagination, your ability to put yourself in my shoes is so profound. And I feel so seen, and it was the most diverse cast that was ever on Broadway. That was the first time a lot of big swath of the population suddenly felt seen and included in this very usually elite form of theater.
I mean, I did. I saw it, and I actually saw it 14 times with multiple casts, but I saw the original cast, and it's my favorite musical because the first time I saw myself on stage. And having spent years, studying and going through 4 years of college, never seeing myself. And that was the first musical. And I didn't like musicals before that. Right? So, I mean, it changed. Yeah. And then, coincidentally, my second favorite is In the Heights. So.
Or not so coincidentally, but yeah, there's a thread there for sure.
There's something going on there. But I think sort of talking about diverse voices and diverse writers, how does Jonathon Larson's work, and you sort of already started talking about this, how does it fit today? Especially because there's such a huge push right now for diverse voices and new work. And so how does someone who wrote years ago, for me, I saw the work, I was there, I got it, right? I saw myself on stage, but it's, fast forward, it's 2022, and there's this huge reckoning, and especially a racial reckoning, and this wanting for diverse voices. And, how do you see his work fitting into today's spaces?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I definitely think there's an appetite for what he was wrestling with and writing about, and it does feel of today still. And the fact that he was advocating for his community, which happened to be an incredibly diverse theater community, and that he felt absolutely welcomed and a part of, and a sense of belonging within. And I think that may be the key, is that he was all about trying to expand the space of belonging in all of these maybe more elite places, or just kind of just generally. And he was a radical. He was someone that wasn't interested in financial gain. He was interested in changing the psyche of a culture. He was interested in waking people the hell up. And so for me, I think it fits in pretty incredibly with the times we're in now. And I think that this film that Lin directed is kind of a testament to that, because especially for young people, for young artists, the amount of young artists that have reached out to me, and a diverse array of people. It's been incredibly heartening, because what he is writing about and experiencing here is totally universal. It's for all of us who have a calling and who have a vocation and who want to leave the world slightly better than when we found it. And so I feel like it's kind of timeless what he was writing about. So I feel like it's a perfect time for more Jonathon Larson. I think it will always be a great time for Jonathon Larson. Yeah.
And I think about this musical, and I think about the journey of the artist. And there's so many artists in the room right now, and how hard it is. It's not an easy. This is not an easy career, but yet we still choose to do it. We still choose to engage in it, and we still choose to pursue it. And so I'm really curious to know, how do we create the next new work, right? How do we create the next new original work? How do we get inspired like he did to keep going through, especially like with all these artists in the room, the rejection, right? This, like the opening of the play, I've been rejected by blah, 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 blah. And that is just part of what this career's like. But if you have an idea, and you have a passion, I mean, he just never let go. And as you were saying earlier, regardless what he was being confronted, and he pushed through in such a beautiful way. So I'm curious to know, like, how do we do that today?
Yeah, I mean, that's above my pay grade. I think, again, I go back to each one of us having a unique thread, a unique giftedness, a unique kind of, like, if we're all individually a ship laden with cargo that we have to deliver to the world before we're gone. I love that as an image, love that as an idea. And I go to, there's a couple of, like, I go to what Martha Graham said to Agnes de Mille in that kind of incredible dialogue they had, and that's kind of famous now, but it's basically saying something along the lines of, keep the channel open, the world needs your gifts. No one can express what you can express in the way that you can uniquely express it. And if you close the channel, if you close the valve, then you are starving the world of something that it so desperately needs. The world wants your soul. The world wants your incredibly specific, unique giftedness. And yeah, it's a good one. It's the best. I didn't say it. Martha Graham said it. But so all we have to do is keep the channel open. And she also said, it's none of your business if it's any good or not. Like, get out of this idea that it has to be perfect. Get out of this idea that it has to be good or bad or anywhere in between. But the important thing is, it happens to me every time I go and do a play or a film, and it'll be part of the process where I'll start to go into terrible self-doubt and just terrible kind of, that little voice that comes up inside every time and says, no, you don't know what you're doing. Who do you think you are? You have nothing to offer. No. The kind of that devil voice or whatever, or the monster under the bed. And every time it's trying to convince me to run away or to, break my own leg rather than go back into the rehearsal room. And every time I have to drag myself back into the rehearsal room and feel embarrassed and feel humiliated and feel like I don't know what I'm doing, and then just carry on anyway. I think it's a vital part of, and actually when that fear comes up in me, I know that I'm actually close to something really, really good, because it starts to it's actually showing me that it matters so deeply. Like when that terror and that nervousness and that fear of failure comes up, it actually is indicating that I'm close to something that is that's quite potent and alive, and actually may be the reason why I'm alive. And so I think it's just to not let go of the thread is the vital thing. But in terms of making next great new work. I'm not an auteur. I don't write. I mean, I do for myself, but I haven't done it in a public way. I'm an actor that interprets people's work, and I'm proud of that. But in terms of the next great creative kind of form, I don't think it's going to happen on Instagram. I think it's going to happen somewhere deeper than that. I don't think it's going to happen on TikTok. That's right. The prophecy has been, yes, it will occur in a 3-minute TikTok dance, and the world will change. No. That is the end of us. If our hope is hanging on TikTok, it's really bad. We're in really bad shape. No, but I think did anyone see I May Destroy You? So that, I mean, that to me, and then did anyone see Bo Burnham's Inside? So I think those two things for me recently have been the deepest dives, and then I immediately think about Kendrick Lamar and like how he's just different, how he's, and the thing that connects those three are Michaela Cole, who created and starred in I May Destroy You, Bo Burnham, and then Kendrick. The thing that connects them for me is a kind of a verticality. And when I say a verticality, if Instagram is shallow and right here, a kind of horizontal kind of like, you dip your toe in and it's meaningless and it's just an image and it's flat and it's two-dimensional and it doesn't mean anything. The verticality represents a kind of depth, right? And a connection to the ground, and a connection to spirit, but also a connection to ancestry. It's kind of the whole thing. And those three pieces of work, well, all of Kendrick's work, but Inside and I May Destroy You have such an incredible depth and a kind of wholeness to it. And it's these people that have gone down, actually, rather than trying to get up. They've gone down to the depths of their own souls, and they've come up with all of this just terribly complicated gold. So anyway, I have hope for where art is going, because occasionally something will break through that is transcendent and universal, and not just a kind of all sizzle and no steak. You know what I mean? So sometimes it happens.
And in talking about fear and sort of confronting your fear, here you were offered a role in a musical movie, and the big, everyone's been talking about how you had to sort of learn to sing. And that's, talk about, and you're entering a room with all of these folks that are musical theater performers who perform on Broadway on a daily basis. And you're like, hi, I'm here. And, I mean, you dove in the most beautiful way that an actor does in its research and training. And for all the actors in the room, I'd love for you to be able to sort of talk a little bit about the process of taking on a role where you might be like, I don't know if I know how to do that, right? But then still asking the question of, and I was reading one of these interviews, and the question was like, how long do I have to learn to do this? Okay, yes, I can do this, right? And so, but the importance of that as an actor, that even when something is being presented to you, how do you train for it, and what is that sort of process?
Yeah, and thank you. And I never know if I can do it, and no matter what it is, whether it's Angels in America, which is an 8.5-hour play, and Everest, climbing Mount Everest every day, and just kind of the whole human experience in one play, or if it's kind of stepping into the a spandex suit and playing Spider-Man, and like having to deal with all of the kind of attention of millions upon millions of people having an opinion about every aspect of what I'm presenting in those films, and having to. I was young at that point. I was 20. I was in my mid-20s. That's not young, but I felt young to have that kind of exposure, and it was nerve-wracking. And I kind of needed to protect myself, because I wasn't equipped to deal with all the projection that people everyone's going to have either a wonderful opinion of it or like a not so wonderful opinion of it, and to be able to, it takes a lot of strength to be able to withstand both of those, like the kind of ego inflation and the ego deflation. And I knew that I wasn't ready for it in a way. Now I feel like I know myself more, so I can sit here in front of you and you can think whatever you want of me. It's none of my business. But back then it was tricky. So I think every time there's something that is going to feel impossible to work through for me. And I think for all of us, when we're going to do work that we care about deeply, that actually matters to us. And the thing that always pulls me through is this sense that I don't particularly have a choice. Like I have to do what I have to do. And I think we all have an opportunity to feel that in whatever we feel called to. And I think it's very lucky and fortunate if we have mentors, and it's usually not our parents. It's usually someone outside of the bloodline who goes, hey, I see you. I don't have a dog in the fight. Like, you do what you want, but just so you know, I think you could be a really great pilot or a really incredible lawyer or whatever, like that kind of like drop seeds about what your calling might be. And it very, very rarely comes from mum or dad, because they have too much vested interest, and they treat you like, you are a part of them, which you are absolutely not. And it's important to sever those ties so that you can actually go your own way. It's really tricky to do, because they will do everything they can to keep you right next to them, and like treat you like they're an extension of themselves. So be careful. It's a real thing. And so for me, every time there is something that I don't think I can do. And for this, of course, it was singing and piano and the choreography. It's something that I so desperately wanted to do. And actually, it was Jonathan's spirit that was the thing that meant I couldn't rest until I absolutely got it right. Yeah, it was devoting my time and my energy to supporting and kind of honoring John and everything that he stood for. That was the North Star. It's so helpful to have something that is greater than you, that you are chasing. And then suddenly, you just have to somehow trick your ego into a box somewhere, or distract it. They go, you just play over here while I have to go and do this impossible thing. I know if you're here, you're going to tell me to run away. So it's kind of a little magic trick that you have to do, just to be like, it doesn't matter if I look bad, or if I fail, or if I'm humiliated, or if it's, if I'm just caught naked in the middle of Times Square. It doesn't matter. Like, I have to serve this thing that's bigger, and that is the thing that I tether myself to, that kind of pulls me onto the stage every time.
Thank you. One of my favorite things about the movie is the relationship between Michael and Jonathan. I think it's really special. I feel that not enough films and not enough plays showcase male vulnerability, especially when it comes to friendship. And it was really beautiful to see their friendship. So I'm really curious to know, how did you and Robin de Jesús, how did you work together to develop those moments? Because they moved me. When the two of you are together, it moves me. And there's something really special between, and of course, it's also coming from the real life relationship between these two, but I'm really curious how you were able to bring this to life.
Well, the easiest thing in the world is to act with Robin, because as soon as he came into audition and I was reading with him, I just loved him. Like, it was just there. I was like, oh, I love this person. I don't have to work at it. I can feel him. I feel his soul and his spirit, and I'm just like, let's go. And so that is a big advantage when someone is just purely lovable, as Robin de Jesús is. And Lin cast it well in that way. But then I think what is particularly moving, and I think one of the things that I didn't even think about particularly, and neither did Robin until we had seen the film screened, and a couple of people had said it to us, is that I don't think we're used to seeing a male friendship, one identifying as straight, one identifying as gay, and have it not be a thing, have it not be have familiarity and tactility and like being touchy-feely with each other and loving each other vulnerably and openly, as you said, like brothers, but with this kind of I don't know, there was a kind of there was a kind of like oh yeah, and that they have completely different sexual orientations, and I think that is a, you know, kind of, it's great that neither of us gave it a moment's thought, because, you know, John wouldn't have, and neither would have Michael. It was that's the beauty of being a theater person, is that you get exposed to everything and everyone, and you realize that there is no difference between any of us, particularly, apart from all of the obvious differences of where we come from, and you know, our histories and you know, our life experiences. But ultimately, I think what we get to do in the arts and in filmmaking and in theater making and in story making is we get to bring that distance, like to lessen that distance between each other, to build bridges between the distances between each other. And I think, yeah, it was a testament to how Robin is. And, you know, I think in one of our first rehearsals, either Robin or myself, we put down the script and we're like, wow, oh, this is the other love story of this film. And framing it that way was like, oh, it's very clear. This is actually maybe the main love story of this film between these two friends. And it's just, yeah, it's a privilege to be able to create a relationship like that on screen, yeah.
It definitely was for me, like, it's just really beautiful. We are coming close to time, and I just wanted to sort of close off with one last question about Jonathon. The character Jonathon Larson is at 110. You know, throughout almost the entire film. And I'm curious to know, also for everyone in the room to sort of hear, how as an actor do you maintain that energy and then also maintain your own self-care?
Self-care? I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, no, it's a really good question. And tell me if you get a good answer. Because that's something that I ask myself all the time, because like I've kind of alluded to is, you know, I feel I get possessed, and I feel kind of drawn and kind of like dragged into a devotional way of working where everything else kind of falls away, and I just kind of like, I just devote myself at the feet.
Like Jonathon.
Exactly. And especially for this, because that's what I had to inhabit. That 110 turned up to an 11, I like to say all the time, you know. There's no off switch. He didn't sleep, you know. The only time he was able to relax is when he smoked weed. He actually gave Stephen Sondheim his first joint. That's a little known fact at a party. Yeah, Jonathan's claim to fame was he got Sondheim high for the first time. Yeah, it's kind of funny. But he, so that was the job. And it was like the spirit of John was with us throughout filming, throughout the preparation of the piece as well, because we were calling him in. And also I just think he has a lot of unfinished business because he left us so early. So his soul, his spirit is still like, keep it moving. Come on, who's gonna pick up the baton? Who's gonna keep this work moving into the world, because it's good work and it can heal still, and there's still people that don't know about me and what I was trying to give. And I think we felt that as a kind of energy that was coming from the other world. Like, you know, we would try and imaginatively carve a hole in the ceiling of every set and just then beckon John in and say, come on, follow, like you lead and we will follow. And of course, me playing him, it was like, you know, I was the kind of the barometer of John. I was kind of the lightning rod. I was like, you know, trying to like, well, where does John want to stand today? And Lin had to just follow me with the camera. And it was a really cool thing. It was really, really cool. So the energy came from John, came from my own connection to John, my passion for this story for sure, my longing to serve him. And then in terms of self-care, I really, yeah, it's important though. It is really important to remember. Well, no, I will say this. Like, it's important to remember that I am not my job. Like I'm very proud of my work in this film, and I'm very proud of the skill set that I've developed, and I have developed it over the course of the last 20 years or 18 years since I graduated my drama college when I was 20. So yeah, it's been 18 years, and I've really been, planting seeds and trying to work my craft and dig deeper into what I love about this work. And then I've also had to learn simultaneously that I can't identify with it. I can't live and die by whether you like this movie. Like, I have to know that I am enough, whether or not this gets seen by one person or a million, or we get 5 Oscar nominations or none. Like, I have to know that if I can do theater in a black box with 5 people watching for the rest of my life, I'm good. It's that. It's just about the work. And then me as Andrew, my being is enough. The doing doesn't prove anything either way. I just happen to have gotten very, very fortunate that I get to do what I do. And if it falls away, it falls away. I would hate it, but I would endeavor to have a spiritual kind of feeling about it and try to think it through in a way that it didn't feel like it was, an identification of me, of my worth.
Andrew, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please, big thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That was
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.